Yo, yo, yo. Welcome back into another episode of Jake's Takes. I'm your host, Jake Massucci, and today I am super excited to be joined by my guy, Griffin Beers. Griffin is with us today, and we're going to go over the Final Four, give us our thoughts on all four teams and kind of talk about the tournament as a whole and who we think is coming out on top, just going deep into it. We got big Final Four weekend, and I'm excited to get talking. So without further ado, I'm going to cue the music. All right. Welcome back into the show. I am your host, Jake Massucci, and I am super excited to be joined by my guy, Griffin Beers. I'm super excited to have him here. Griffin, man, we've watched an awesome March Madness tournament, and with you, I'm just going to introduce you a little bit here, give you my best introduction possible. But Griffin here was a senior manager when I was a freshman manager and taught me everything I know about being a manager. He's an absolute stud. I look up to him, and I'm really happy to have him on the pod. So Griff, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you. That's quite the introduction. That's up there with the best I've gotten. So thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, I'm super excited to have you on, and we've had an awesome March Madness tournament so far. I think we can both agree that last year's March Madness was better for us. But
I was gonna and say it's not the best that I've seen, but it's been pretty good.
Yeah, no, it's been pretty good. I mean, I think these teams that we'll go through with all these one seeds, the talent level is just ridiculous, and that's what I'm excited to kind of talk about because it coincides with there's a lot of NBA draft picks, there's a lot of talent and stuff like that. Maybe not the most interesting, but it's definitely to me the best teams we've seen in a while. But I want to get your thoughts on the tournament. So give me what you've got so far. What you've seen.
Yeah, I mean, the main talking point everyone's talking about is where's Cinderella.
Yeah,
and I think it's kind of being overblown about why the reasons why we don't have as many upsets maybe as we've seen. I think if you look at a lot of the examples, the top of the mid-major class this year that made the tournament, I'm talking the 12 and 13 seeds, a lot of them just didn't shoot good. And I really think that's kind of it. That's why we didn't see what we're used to seeing. I do think I think that the crop of seeds in the second to third and fourth tiers, I think those are the seeds that are getting stronger because of NIL. I don't really think that it's kind of the top of the country. I think this dominance is just because these teams are insane. But I think it's being overblown. Not as many teams are elite because of all the money. No, I think it's actually making more teams be able to be competitive. You look at a team like Louisville who's got a bunch of money. They're a competitive 8 seed and after winning 3 games last year. So I think we just got to sit back and enjoy the game sometimes. I mean it's been fun. I mean, anytime you get this much high level basketball in such a short time is awesome, and that's why the tournament's so great.
Yeah, no, every year tournament's awesome. You sit back. I didn't get it last year because we were at the tournament, but right. That Thursday, you're just watching all the games, and it's one of the best feelings in the world. To have 4 games on at once, it's awesome. But getting back to your point about the Cinderellas, I think you're right. UC San Diego they still lost that game by 2 points. Trey Donaldson had to hit a big shot, and to me, they were one of the best mid majors to come out. And they played so bad in that first half and still had a chance to beat Michigan. And Michigan was really close to Auburn, had a lead for a while, and Auburn kind of took over and won the game. But Michigan was a really, really good 5 seed. So I don't think Cinderella's gone. I agree with you there. Um, it's just been a year where it's like, okay, Drake was probably the best mid-major team. Guess what? They got to win. And then
Yeah,
they ran into a really hot Texas Tech team that hit like all of their threes in that
yeah,
game,
yeah,
and Texas Tech, same thing as Michigan, like playing Florida, like winning by 6 points with 2 minutes left and losing that game, that Elite Eight game. So, you're looking at it that way, and I don't think the mid majors are gone. I like what you're saying with the six seeds and those teams like developing and looking
yeah,
better than they did. But it was definitely to me disappointing just because like you love seeing those Cinderellas, you love seeing
yeah,
that. That's part of the reason you tune into March Madness, right? But also this group of four that we got for the final four is just stacked, and it's one of the most fun I've seen like watching one seeds. Like Cooper Flag is unbelievable, right? Houston's defense is all over you physically, and then Florida, Walter Clayton Jr. is just literally the story if you watch the end of that Texas Tech game. And then
yeah,
Auburn has been Auburn all year long. So, I mean, I think we got the best four teams, which to me, I like seeing that. I don't think the average fan loves seeing that. But to me, I think it's really cool. And I think we got a stacked Final Four. I'm excited to see it, though.
yeah. I think it's interesting. You usually don't get four teams that all like make sense. Like I think throughout the entire season, if you look like November, December, January, I think all four of these teams, like the general consensus in the public, like all four of these teams have had their moment where it's like, hey, that's the best team in the country. Like if you
Yeah.
look at how Auburn started, and everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, Auburn, you can't beat Auburn, right?" And like Duke was losing early, and then all of a sudden like Duke started winning, and it's, "Oh my gosh, look at these guys, that's the best team in the country." And then Duke goes and they lose at Clemson, and then like, oh, wait,
Yeah.
Houston hasn't lost. That's the best team in the country. And
Mm-hmm.
then you get into kind of the conference tournament, and Florida's winning the SEC, and now everyone's picking Florida to win the national championship. So it's cool that we got four teams that like have deserved it the entire season.
Yeah. No, I'm in 100% agreement there. And um, like these matchups are really interesting. If we want to start, let's focus on that Duke Houston matchup. So looking at these teams, okay, these four, we've watched a lot of them just because of how much talent they've had. And I mean, we got the ACC champion, we have the SEC regular season and the SEC tournament champions, and then the Big 12 champion. So we watched a ton of them throughout the season. So Duke Houston, you can start with whoever team you want, but like, what has stood out to you about these two teams, and what interests you about what these teams can attack during this matchup?
Yeah, I'll start with Duke. I think the key to why Duke has looked like so dominant throughout like this tournament, like Malwatch has turned into a freaking beast.
Mm-hmm.
And like he is just dominating games, like defensively, and like when those other guys that are getting downhill, like they can throw lobs to him, and I think like that is why they've looked so good. And there aren't many teams that are able to like match the athleticism of him and the other big Gongba. Like those
Yeah.
guys are beasts, but Houston also has dogs inside. And I think like I have this game in my bracket, and I picked Houston to win this game. And
Wow.
the way
I like
Duke
that.
has looked like has kind of scared me a little bit, but I still think that Houston will be able to like match up with them um and be able to like stay with them defensively and not be overpowered. And then I think the difference with this Houston team that we've seen, like why other teams haven't won the national championship because they've probably been good enough, is this they have shot makers this year.
Mm-hmm.
Like they have guys that like can make threes. Like Sharp is a knockdown shooter. Like Uzan can really like light it up, and I think like that'll be a heck of a matchup.
Yeah. No, I mean, to add on, like with those shooters, like Uzan, the last game was just absolutely insane. in that Elite Eight game against Tennessee. And he also had a monster performance against Purdue. And when you got three guys shooting over 40% from three with Cryer,
Yeah.
Sharp, and Uzan, it's just way better. It's a way better version of the Houston team, right?
Yeah.
Because you're going to get a really physical defense. You're going to get the pressure all over the place. They blitz every pick and roll. They've always done that, and they've got the bigs to do it. Juwan Roberts is unbelievable, and there's so many big guys that make it difficult for you when you're playing against Houston. I mean, it's part of the reason why last year we were like, if Houston fell to a 2 or 3 seed, we don't really want to play them because the physicality and how big they are. It's always been that way with Houston to me. And it's great to see them back in the Final Four because a lot of people picked them last year with Jamal Sheed. It was a similar situation where Sheed was the main scorer and him going down was kind of killer. I actually had them winning my bracket last year. But, like this year, it's good to see what they've done. And now they're running into a Duke team that's just been dominant this whole tournament. Everybody's talked about Cooper Flag. Con Knipple is awesome. You talked about Malowich. Malowich started playing basketball 4 years ago, and everybody's going crazy about that fact that he's now like the best rim protector in the league. His passing is unbelievable. Dude, I love what Shire's done with that team. Like, they just run such great offense and their defensive capabilities. And I mean, Tyrese Proctor has been underrated with that Duke team. Like, his improvement has been really sensational to me. And I picked Duke to win it all. That was my only like good pick in my bracket. My bracket's pretty terrible now, but like looking at it this way, I think Duke just has a little too much talent in this game. Like, I think the only way Houston wins this game is if Cryer has a monster game. And that's what they've been missing from him the last 2 games, at least. Like especially that Purdue game, he struggled a little bit. And Purdue hung around. They hung around. Unbelievable play call by Kelvin Sampson at the end of that game. That was a sweet play. And, looking at it that way, I'm excited to see, like, what happens in this game. I think there's many different ways that these coaches can attack each other. I just think at the end of the day, Cooper Flag's the best player on the floor. And that's going to be the main reason that Duke sneaks it out. Who do you got in this one?
I kind of gave it up earlier, but I'm taking Houston. I think Cryer has not had a consistent tournament, which could mean he's due for a big one.
Yes.
But I think in past years, like when the Houston guy, and last year obviously with Shed getting hurt, it kind of like goes into this. It's not the same thing, but it goes into this. Like, when Houston's lead guard has a bad game, they're done because they just like they defend and they do the things that they do, but when that one guy isn't scoring, it's been hard for them. This year, I think they can withstand like the one guy having a bad game with those other 2 guys. So, I don't know. Something tells me Houston here.
Yeah, no, I like it. I think this is a really interesting matchup. I mean, this is one you would have to stare at because these teams are unbelievable. And I really liked what you said about the fact that they have 3 shooters this year. Like, that's huge. Houston has not had that, so I really think it's one of the best Houston teams we've seen, but I also think it's the best Duke team we've seen in a long time. So yeah, I mean, I'm really excited for that matchup. I think it's going to be really interesting. And then we got an SEC rematch that we've seen a couple times this season in Florida and Auburn. The way Florida got here was just crazy, man. Like, you think they're done against UConn, and then they come all the way back, win that game. You think they're done against Texas Tech, and they come all the way back and win that game. I'm hearing, like, I'm listening to all these NBA pods, and like, the only person that they've been watching in March Madness, like, why isn't he on draft boards, is Walter Clayton Jr. And I mean, like, that's all because he's been the clutch guy. He's been sensational for Florida. And then, like, I'm really excited to see how these teams match up and that they played each other so many times that it'll be interesting. So what are your thoughts on these 2 teams, what you've seen from them throughout the year, and then how they match up with each other for this game?
Yeah, I mean, Florida just has looked kind of like the team that everyone wants their team to look like in the last month or so, like you've got guards that like your stereotypical guards that win in the tournament, right? Your closer and Clayton, like Martin's really good, Richard's really good,
Mm-hmm.
but those bigs have been really impressive. And I wasn't watching them in the beginning of the year too much, just because obviously no one knew this was going to happen, right? But the
Yeah.
more you watch them, like the more you realize like that team is like really good in the front court. And
Mm-hmm.
I think like Stan Van Gundy's commentary was kind of all about that in the Elite
Yeah.
Eight and the Sweet 16 game. I know he loved Thomas Houck, and he loved those other guys. He loved Condit. He loved
Yep.
Chimulu. I mean, well, those guys are really good. I think that's really interesting when you look at those guys against Broome. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's a big reason why Florida was able to go into Auburn and beat Auburn like they did, is because
Yeah.
like they have so many bodies up front that can handle like what Auburn brings athletically. And so, I'm kind of leaning Florida in this one, but man, Auburn look good. And I think going into the tournament, like Auburn had lost 3 or 4 or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think people were kind of like, like fading Auburn a little bit. I had them losing the Sweet 16 to Texas
Yep.
A&M.
I had him lose him early. Yep.
Yeah, and then some like that crowd in Atlanta when they got down whatever it was 10-12 to Michigan, and like it was almost like they remember like, hey, we're Auburn, like
Yeah.
like we're supposed to be the best team in the country. And they really looked like it. And Michigan State didn't play great in the Elite Eight game, but a lot of that was because of how Auburn was playing. That
Yeah.
this is another heavyweight fight on this side of the bracket.
Yeah, no, it's definitely going to be interesting. I had Auburn losing really early in my bracket. Like I was at the point where I was like, man, they peaked too early. I talked myself, out of
Yep.
them completely. And I also talked myself into Creighton because I love the matchup with Auburn, because Cockburner I thought would really give Broome problems, and he did. That was the one game where Broome kind of struggled, but their guards are the story here. Like their guards came in right away and dominated that game and won them that game with Pettiford and Denver Jones. Like those guards have just been sensational throughout the whole tournament. Like whenever they need something, like Pettiford's got them. Pettiford would take Golden off a switch in that Michigan game and just dominate him through. And then also in that Sweet 16 Elite Eight, like Broome just woke up, man. Like he was a man on a mission. Michigan State started out one-on-one coverage on him, and he was like, seriously, just dominated. Broome has been that guy for them. And when you have an X factor like that, it's really hard to stop. Really hard to stop. And then you're looking at Florida again, like unbelievable comebacks throughout the year. I love what you're saying about the big. Stan Van Gundy's commentary was like the greatest thing ever. I love his commentary.
He said Thomas Houck's made more money this weekend than Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs or something. Yeah, no, I love Stan Van Gundy. He's awesome. But
Can I shout out Stan Van Gundy, by the way? The NBA guys that come in on TNT and CBS, you could tell, like, I love Charles Barkley, I love Kenny Smith. You could tell they don't watch these teams, and like the other
yeah,
guys in the commentary, like the announcer pairings, you could tell that they really don't watch. Like Jalen Rose was just saying like nice ball screen and stuff like that. Stan Van Gundy does his homework, and
yes,
he's
yes.
saying you could tell that he puts a lot into like watching film on all of
Mhm.
these teams and really understanding. So just a quick shout out for SVG.
Yeah, no, I mean, especially because like in that Texas Tech game, if we're looking at it, he was like with Williams, you gotta force him to his right shoulder. You
Yeah,
gotta force him to that
yeah,
left hand. It was through that the whole game, and like us being around it, like that's all coaches say,
yeah.
like that's all that personnel work. That's all what it is, and I think it's great to have that in commentary. And gosh, like it was funny because I think like Bill Connerly or somebody else was on the game with him, And the whole time it was just like Stan talking, and then Connerly would be like, "Yep, you're right," and then it would just go right back to
No.
the play-by-play. But it was,
Deb Bonner and Kevin Harlan are on that crew.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like overall, I love Stan Van Gundy. He's awesome. He's awesome. But looking at this Florida Auburn game, do you have a lean here? Because this is a tough one, man. I really think it's tough.
Yeah, I had Florida as my national champ.
Okay.
Going into the tournament.
So you had a good bracket then.
Yeah, I have three of the four Final Fours. I had Michigan State in the Final Four over Texas A&M, who I had beating Auburn. I think if I had Auburn in the Elite Eight, I think I would have picked Auburn over Michigan State. But I just thought Texas A&M wouldn't be afraid of Auburn, whatever, and they'd beat them. But
yeah,
I want to lean Florida just because it's how I started, and I something told me, hey, like they're the national champ. But man, Auburn's just looks like so good the last couple of games. I'm gonna pick Florida though.
Yeah,
and it's because I don't trust Chad Baker-Bizarro. I think he'll do something that will lose them the game.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm the same way, man. Like when I've watched Auburn like really intently throughout the whole bracket, throughout the whole tournament, and they're just so inconsistent, man. Like you just watch them. There's the Alabama State game where like the start of the game, they just let Alabama State control it. And then in the second half, the guards wake up a little bit and they show that they're more talented. They still win the game by 20. And I was like, okay, that's fine. Start first half of the Creighton game, like it doesn't even seem like they're playing defense. Creighton hits 11 threes on them in the first half. And I'm feeling great about my Creighton over Auburn pick. And then Auburn wakes up, right?
Yeah.
And they show you who the giant is with unbelievable guard play, right? And then it's same thing with the Michigan game, down by a lot of points to make a comeback, right? And then the Michigan State game, they had control and looked pretty good throughout the whole game. I'm not going to give them too much there. But, like, if you're playing a team that knows you so well, which Florida does, I'm kind of going to lean the fact that they have the clutch factor, which is Walter Clayton Jr. They have the bigs playing well. They have the bigs to throw at Janai Broom. And they just have a lot here that I think it's going to be a problem for Auburn at the end of the day, and I think Florida will get it done. I think it's going to be a really good game, though. Like, those teams know each other so well. Like, it could be a defensive throttle, I think, just because they know each other so well. But, I mean, I could be wrong, too, and they could just hit every shot. Like, you never know with these games,
Yeah, the other thing, it's possible Broom is not 100%. I know he came back in, but they took him out like after he hit that three, and he was still like holding his elbow and not moving as well as he should be. That's another factor, but he could be 100%. Who knows? So
yeah, we'll have to see. Who knows there? So I think you would have Florida, Houston. Who would your lean be there? Florida.
Yeah, I picked. I'd stick to what I had at the beginning, I think. So.
What's your reasoning for if those two were to match up? What would be your reasoning for that one? Florida over Houston.
Honestly, Walter Clayton Jr.
Okay.
That's pretty much it. And I think,
yeah,
I don't know. I just trust him if it's a close game to do it. So
yeah, I think Houston could give the Florida similar problems to how Texas Tech did. Because Houston has some talented bigs, especially on the defensive end more. Like, they don't have, like, a JT Toppin, but you could tell, like, Toppin was really frustrated with Florida's bigs, too.
I forgot to mention that because I think Broom is better than JT Toppin, but they're pretty similar.
Yeah, they are pretty similar.
So, and Florida did a really good job against him, so.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, it'll definitely be interesting there because I do think Houston's bigs and like that pressure might be able to get Walter Clayton off his spot because Texas Tech had a very pressure defense that got Clayton off his spot in the first half. Like, Clayton didn't have a great first half, if people remember. Yes, he had 30 points. It looked awesome near the end of the game. But like, if you watch the whole game, he wasn't great until those last like 6 minutes of the game. And it was
Yeah.
similar with the other guys. Like Martin was great. Martin's an awesome player. Like he's so good on defense, and I mean, if he's hitting the shots, you're just like, man, like what can we do out here,
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah. So I think Houston could kind of put them off their spot there, and I think the question will be like, who do you trust, LJ Cryer or Walter Clayton Jr.? I think that's kind of the question there. Be interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, I'm giving predictions for these games, but it seriously would not, like, I would not be surprised by any result in any of the 3 games we're about to see. So it should be fun.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'd have Duke versus Florida, and I think I'm just rolling Duke there. I think Cooper Flag's too much. I think Duke looks awesome. There's just so much talent on the floor for Duke. Yeah, I think Houston's a really interesting matchup because they got to get through that Houston team. What do you think about the matchup of Duke versus Florida? Like, would you lean Duke, or I mean, you're pretty high on Florida here, so I want to hear your thoughts there.
Yeah, I think I would probably pick Duke in that game.
Okay.
But yeah, I think I would pick Duke. Obviously, I would. That's a way to make myself look right either way of what
Yeah.
happens. So I think I'll have to do that. But yeah, I just think Houston. I honestly think Houston is like the one team that Duke like will have a problem beating. I think I'd pick them against any other team in the country. Um, and we saw the Duke and Auburn already play, and like Auburn came out, really hot, and Duke came back and ended up they were just kind of too good for them. Looking at games, yeah, really interesting. That's another thing that I haven't said. Auburn has played all 3 of these teams already.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's
That is
insane.
really. I remember looking at as a Michigan State guy, I was like doing my Auburn homework, and I
Yeah,
think they were like 3-4 against the other Elite Eight teams going into the Michigan State game. Like they've played
that's
8 games
wild.
this season against teams that have made the Elite Eight now.
Oh my
Like that's
goodness.
crazy. Then if they
I
play
mean,
2 more games, 10
they had like
games,
15 quad one wins or something like that. Something nuts
yeah,
this year.
yeah, it's crazy.
I knew they were on pace for 20, and then they had that little losing skid near the end of the year. But yeah, the SEC was wild, man. I mean, good for the SEC. This is the first time we've seen like this dominance like forever with a
Yeah,
conference.
yeah,
Most teams to ever make the field, but yeah, I think looking at that Duke Houston, I agree with you that Houston's the only one, and I think it's just because of the way they play defense. They could get under Cooper Flag's skin. We haven't seen a team be able to do that. They could get under a Conca skin, with that pressure. And Tyrese Proctor, like I've talked about, like how much improvement he's had, and especially like with his younger years, like you could tell like there were times where he can get sped up. With Cooper Flag, I just did a scouting report on him. There's times where he can get sped up. I think Houston's a fantastic defensive team that can speed you up and make you uncomfortable with your finishes and stuff like that. Kind of like how Florida can make you uncomfortable with your finishes. The thing about Houston that I think is different than Florida is that Houston like is physical with it. So they'll like really get you off your spot and make you not want to come into the paint anymore, or make you like, if you get blitzed off a pick and roll, it's like, okay, I need to pass this ball, I think that is harder to deal with than a team like Florida, who's a very good defensive team, but also last year we're like, it's a similar team, and last year they were like 100th or 200th in the country in defense, whereas now they're 10th. But they don't have as much of a defensive identity as for say a Houston, right?
yeah. And I think with Houston, the other thing, like teams that Duke has played, like they'll wear them down, and or they'll get into foul trouble, and then like most teams will only have like a certain amount of athletes that can hang with like a team like Duke. But like if Houston has a guy get in foul trouble, they're bringing off another alien off the bench. Like
Yeah.
like they just have so much that can wear you down. So
It's gonna be interesting, man. It's gonna be interesting, but I mean, it's the best time of the year. Final Four, man. I'm pumped. I'm super pumped. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, it'll be good. I think I saw a stat. I think I think it's like 4 of the top 10 teams. Like these 4 teams are top 10 ever in the Ken Palm era.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's
yeah,
wild.
it's a true heavyweight battle, which is awesome.
Yeah. No, for sure. For sure. Well, Griff, I really appreciate you coming on. Is there anything you want to plug? Anything you want to talk about to end before we end the show?
I don't think I got anything.
All right.
Sounds
All
good.
right. All right. Well, I'll plug something for you. Follow Griff on Twitter. He's got
All right,
awesome
well,
Twitter stuff. Okay. Awesome Oakland basketball writer for us. He's always around still. And really appreciative of him coming on. So thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
sir. Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. All right. Well, that is going to wrap up the show for today. Thank you guys so much for listening, watching, wherever you're at. And I will see you guys next time. Peace.